What is going on, everybody? And to me, it just seems like that not a day can go by in this gaming community where it just doesn't explode just because of a little piece of news. Just a little piece of news that really isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So what am I talking about? Now, as I'm sure most of you know by now, Uncharted 4, one of the biggest game releases that was expected to be released later this year, is getting pushed back to spring of next year. Now, first off, I would just like to say that it does bum me out a little bit that this game is not coming out this year, because I'm a huge Uncharted fan. I've been a huge Uncharted fan since the very first game. In fact, Uncharted was the reason I wanted to get a PlayStation 4, and the reason I did get a PlayStation 4 in September of 2009. Because I always wanted to play that game, and I knew that the sequel to it was coming out later that year. And guess what? I played the first game. I've been hooked ever since, and I've played every single one of the games, including the Vita game, and I've platinumed all of them. Now, I know to some people, platinum trophies or just trophies in general and achievements aren't that big of a deal, but it shows how dedicated I am to this series and how much I enjoy this series so much that I went out of my way to try to get all of the achievements and trophies in those games. And ever since they first showed footage of this game, not the gameplay footage that they eventually showed, the first in-game cutscene footage they showed, where they made sure to point out that everything that was being captured at that moment was from the in-game engine on the PlayStation 4. Ever since they showed that, and the awesome setting, and the atmosphere, and the graphics, and hearing Sully, and then eventually Drake talk, it captivated me, and I could not wait to play that game. So yeah, I am a little bummed out it is not coming out this year. However, here is where I'm going to differ from just about everybody else in this community. Uncharted 4 not coming out this year is not the end of the goddamn world, like people are making it out to be. First off, since this is probably going to be the last Uncharted game in the series, according to Naughty Dog, I want them to take as much time as they possibly can to make sure that they can get this game right. Because being a huge fan of the series that I am, and the fact that this may be the last game, it needs to go out with a bang. It needs to have that perfect, captivating ending to this series. And you know what? If they saw a bug or glitch or some type of problem, I want them to fix it. And I want them to scour the game as much as they can to find as many of these problems that may pop up. And I would have hated that if this game came out and it had some problems, it would totally put a damper on the experience that we're supposed to get from a game like this. And look at all of the games that have released, not just this year, last year, that released and they had huge issues that had to be fixed with patches. And sometimes the patches wouldn't even really fully fix the game. And sometimes they would have to come up with new patches to fix these problems. And then you have people basically getting upset because these games launch with these problems. And then they say, oh, maybe they should have worked on the game longer. But then some of these same people will turn around and anytime a game gets even a slight delay, they lose their freaking minds. And when I mean they lose their minds, I mean they lose them. It's almost like their emotions go from 0 to 100 in a nanosecond. And I can't understand that mindset. When I see a game get delayed, it doesn't bother me. It does not bother me at all, even if it's a game I'm looking forward to. And you want to know why it doesn't bother me? It's because there are so many games out there right now, right this very moment, that you can play. I mean, do any of you who have these problems, do you have backlogs of games? Because there's a lot of people that have backlogs of games. And I don't see why people can't look at this as an opportunity to maybe work on some of these games that they have not played yet. Hell, if you still have a last-gen system, I don't see why you can't go back and play a game from last gen that you have not played yet. Just go into any freaking GameStop. Go into any GameStop. And look around you, and what do you see? Games. Wall-to-wall games. There might be a game out there that you might really enjoy, but you'll never know unless you try and play it. And no one can sit here and tell me that there's not really any game that's already come out that they have not played yet that they have no interest in. Because to me, that's untrue. And it also makes me wonder why people pin their hopes and dreams on only a select few games. Even if these games look damn good, even if they look like they may be that system seller, I just don't see how people can pin their hopes on these select few games to justify their purchase decision for their console. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen people say after this news broke that Sony's got nothing now. Sony's got nothing now. After Bloodborne comes out in less than a couple weeks, they got nothing at all. You know, it's funny to me because, you know, I remember a little thing that happened just a few months ago, late last year. It was called the PlayStation Experience. And from what I remember about it, they announced a ton of stuff that was coming to the PlayStation 4. And quite a bit of it was actually exclusive. Now, some of those did not have concrete release dates of when they are going to be on the system. Kind of like Uncharted 4 didn't have a concrete release date. But it still means that they're eventually coming. See, what people fail to realize is that when you buy a console, you're not just buying the console for what's out right now on the market. You're buying a console also for an investment of the future, of what is coming in the future to that console. Look at any console that launched, and then look at the console when its lifespan ended. More often than not, there's a night and day difference of the perception of those consoles. And a perfect example is the PlayStation 3. When the PlayStation 3 first launched, it barely had any games anybody really wanted to play in it. Ironically, it wasn't until the first Uncharted game that it had its first real only game that could possibly be a system seller, but that took a full year into the PlayStation 3's life cycle. Look at the PlayStation 3 now. There is a ton of games to play on the PlayStation 3. The same thing is going to be with the PlayStation 4. And as far as this year goes, I don't see why people can't just wait till E3 to see what they have lined up. It's like I said in my last video about Microsoft. Microsoft has to knock it out of the park at E3. They have to knock it out of the park. But you know what? So does the other two, too. Sony has to knock it out of the park. Nintendo has to knock it out of the park. But guess what? We have to wait and see what these guys have to offer us before we make our judgments based on what these systems will become. And from what I see, based on, for example, the PlayStation Experience, Sony's got stuff coming. They got stuff coming after Bloodborne, and it's not just third-party games. All because you don't know about it, all because you may not be interested in it, that does not mean they don't have anything coming. So, honestly, I just think people need to be more patient when it comes to gaming. To me, patience is a virtue. And it is very important. And not only that, if you're patient, it actually makes gaming more enjoyable. And it makes the gaming industry more enjoyable. I mean, I would like to think myself that I'm a pretty patient person. I don't get involved in too much drama in this community. I mean, sure, I talk about it sometimes, but I don't really get heavily involved into it like some other people do, and I don't heavily get involved in the console war. And look at me. I love gaming today. There are so many games out there to play right now that, guess what? I play one game, I'm done with it, I will move on to the next game. I'm done with that game, I will move on to the next game. I will go into a GameStop, I will look around, I will see something that might interest me. And if I feel like getting it, I'll get it. If I don't, I'll jot it down in my memory, or I will put it down on a list like a game I may get in the future. The point I'm trying to make here is that there's no drought in gaming right now. There is plenty of stuff out there to play. So if you're upset that one game is getting delayed, why don't you just take a step back, calm down, and just fill it with a different game. Fill that time period with a game that maybe was in your backlog. Or maybe it's a game that wasn't in your backlog, but you were interested in it. Why don't you fill that void with that game? You know, to me, it's not really that difficult to do that. And I bet if more people did that, the gaming community would be a lot more enjoyable. Instead of people just sitting around, just doing nothing but complaining and complaining about games, instead of taking the time to enjoy actually playing games. See, I'd rather play games than sit around and complain about them. It's much more enjoyable. It's much more relaxing. So, in short, although I am bummed that Uncharted 4 will not be out this year, it's not the end of the world. I want Naughty Dog to get this game right. And Naughty Dog has proven time and time again that they deliver. And you know what? I expect them to deliver on this game. And if they need more time to deliver what Uncharted 4, or what I think Uncharted 4 should be, then you know what? So freaking be it. So freaking be it. I have more respect for developers that do that. Will purposely delay their game because they don't want to release a broken mess, than developers that will just rush out their game with tons of issues. Because nobody wins when that happens. So, that's about it. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you all later. Have a good one.